What's going on, everybody? And welcome to Mondoid, your weekly Project Zomboid update blog thing, as you've hopefully come to know it by now. And this is going to be a special week. This is a special Mondoid because with me is not just the website. I actually have two of the developers, Chris, also known as Lemmy101, which you all probably know him better by, and Paul, also known as Ringo D123, which you all probably know him by, who actually has his own YouTube channel, which I'm sure many of you have seen. How's it going, guys?
Great, great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. And how you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, Matters.
Good, good. Glad to hear it. So again, welcome. Welcome to Mondoid. I guess this is going to be the weirdest Mondoid I've ever done because I actually have someone to talk back to me as opposed to me just talking at myself.
Inception.
Exactly.
Mondoid. Yeah.
Mondoidception, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm sure lots of people are just kind of eager to hear what's going on this week. So I'm sure you guys are hard toiling away at Zomboid. Any particular big things you guys want to nail down this week, or just want to kind of make this kind of a fun, informal kind of chit chat with two of the developers?
Well, that. But yeah. Also, I guess it's a bit of a quiet week, this week, which is probably why we're probably why we're looking for some interesting way to deliver. Basically, we're just getting on with it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, the last couple of weeks has been about getting the actual gameplay of Zomboid back to where it was. So, for example, we've had the transferal to the new map, and that kind of got resulted in a lot of bugs that meant that really Zomboid wasn't playable as Zomboid. So we got a lot of people asking for gameplay videos, and we've had a lot of why don't you just release it? And then meanwhile, while we're working on the metagame, we're looking at all the bugs. It's like, all the food's spawning anywhere in any of the buildings. That would make for a very interesting, So like, it's basically getting all of the little issues that made the game not actually work as a game, because obviously all the bigger things like the metagame kind of were top focus for a long time. So that's one of the reasons we haven't actually released a video yet, is because we're trying to basically seeing the metagame running in a completely broken world where zombies are walking through walls, or
It's always fun.
goodness knows what else. Yeah, it's not what you want. So
It would make for a tense experience at the very least.
yeah. Maybe we should add that to the Sandbox options: trans-dimensional zombies.
There you go. Perfect. Ghost zombies, transdimensional zombies. That's all people need.
Yeah, but yeah. So hopefully with a bit extra time, we'll be able to start getting those videos out there that people are eager for.
Patience. People need patience. It's just how it is. I mean, from what I've been able to tell, or at least from what it seems like on our end, or at least on my end, maybe coming from a more reasonable and more patient person, is that when you implemented the new graphics system with the new animation and the metagame and whatnot, it's almost like you started building the game from the ground up again. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
Well, I guess it is in a way, because basically we sort of, the problem with alpha funding generally is you're very goal orientated while you're developing. You're not like if you were making a game that was going to take 3 or 4 years to make, you would start at the base and you build up. But with alpha funding, you've got to get something out there to actually pay your rent and
Right.
stuff. So you sort of get it out there as quickly as possible, and then you build on it as quickly as possible. And it's like, basically, it got to the stage where it was outgrowing its foundations, and it led to some problems with the builds. And so it's pretty much about getting on a secure foundation for the future, so that once we start adding multiplayer in and all these things, it won't just crumple under its own weight. And yeah, so yeah, with the new animation system, with the streaming, and with things like that, suddenly we had to rethink how things worked to try and unfortunately, all this stuff, it was like pulling threads at a jumper. It's like you make the decision to put streaming in, and suddenly it's like you're pulling the thread, and suddenly all the things are unraveling, and you're like, oh, right, fix that, and moving over to the new map. And it was, I mean, I think we handled it badly with the release how we handle the releases, and that could have been avoided to an extent if Remainers had popped up earlier with his idea. But yeah, well, I mean, it's the last of the big waves.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's the last of the big waves.
With one of those things, you can't really predict when these ideas are going to pop up either. They just kind of show up, and you're like, oh, you know what? That's going to be great. And you kind of just have to go with it when it comes up.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And obviously, me, Paul, and Will have been talking a lot about where the metagame's going and where Kate and Baldspot's going and stuff like that. And that's it's all very exciting in the future. It's just always this little mountain in front of you to climb before you can start really sort of being excited about it, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of us are still very excited for what's to come. Now, we kind of all know what your job is, Chris. You know, you're the kind of one of the programmers and whatnot. But for those of you who may not know, Paul, what is your big role over at the Indie Stone? What is your job?
Well, it first started off that I was going to be basically overseeing the scripting of the dialogue for the story missions. So, obviously, for example, Kate and Baldspot, I was going to be I am taking all of the actual dialogue that Will writes, and then I wrap around all the in-game code for the game to use that. But then obviously once these test versions started hitting, I then became involved with a lot of the NPC dialogue as well. So obviously, putting around all the scripting language around the dialogue for when you meet NPCs, for all the new stuff that people haven't seen yet as well, that is going to be in the next build, such as like going out on looting missions and stuff. People might have seen like little snippets of videos and stuff for that. But I've been heavily involved in the scripting of all the NPC stuff at the moment. And obviously, when the next version comes out, I will have also done a lot of stuff on the story side of things as well, which I've, again, already done, but nobody's been able to see anything of that yet, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course. I mean, now, are you alone in writing all these NPC stuff, or do you have a partner in crime that you do this with?
Well, Will actually writes it all. He does all of the actual script, as people would know it for like a film or a TV series. Will writes all of that, so he's got all of the different variations of what different people might say. He works out all of that stuff, which is absolutely phenomenal, most of it, and all the rest of it is still great. Anyways, I'm not trying to say some of it's shite, because it's not. It's all absolutely great stuff that he sends through, but some of it is really, really great stuff that I fall in love with straight away. But yeah, he writes all of that, and I literally take that. I'm kind of, without trying to put myself down a little bit, I'm the middleman between Will and Chris. Will writes all of the actual stuff that you're going to read and give voices to yourself in your head while playing. And I put the game code around that so it's usable for Chris to then match up with the zombie AI director at the moment, so that you can be running around and coming across certain things, and people will say things at the right time and everything like that.
Yeah, and once the plan is that once the metagame stuff's out there and finalised, is that would become Paul's responsibility, and he would be responsible for 99% of what goes into the metagame, because obviously it uses Lua completely, so basically it'll be very moddable as well. But so basically a new situation or a new chain of events that could happen that Will writes, and then Paul could put that into the game directly. And meanwhile, I could be working on all the really dull under the bonnet stuff that needs doing. So it's all coming together. We've got a nice sort of synergy between the team, between Mash and Andy doing. Mash has become the map girl, as basically that she's pretty much solely responsible for the map stuff from this point on. Andy is taking on a lot of the arts, like art stuff to do with like animations, the characters, anything 3D. So all the character animations. It means that we're going to get a lot more character animations, a lot more map, a lot quicker. And meanwhile, if Paul will be Mr. Metagame basically in the long run, and that means that the metagame can be evolving without any coder support, and then me and Remain will work on the game mechanics and all of the dull under the bonnet stuff that yeah. But needs to be
I
done.
feel like that's one of the things that people, as you know, the community they either get or they don't. Is that everything that's happened so far, including metagame, the new animation system, the way the map is as long as it's taking as agonizing as the wait can be. In the long run, this makes things 10,000% easier for you all to implement new and exciting things once the game is released, and as that comes
Oh,
out, it just becomes an easier job, not only for you but more exciting for the others because it's going to be coming much more quickly.
oh, without a doubt. I mean, with what we just said about Paul and Will, basically they'd be autonomously working to put NPC character interactions and situations that you can run into and things that could happen in your team, and all that will be pluggable in using just like the Lewis part, and that will and that'll just be getting put in as fast as Will could write it, as fast as Paul could script it in. It it will lead to, I mean, because we don't have voice acting particularly, it'll just lead to such a massive amount of content just from the NPCs alone. And meanwhile you've got Mash working on the map, and she's pretty much got through the entire of Mulder itself now. It's it's I know some people have, a lot of people will play with Paul's map mod, so they'll be used to quite a few cells of, and all the other different mods out there. But like, once we get this map sorted, it's good. Especially with the streaming, you've just got this. It's hard to describe how different it feels when you can just keep running and keep running and keep running. And,
Yeah, no more of that loading between
once,
cells.
yeah, it sounds like a small thing. It's like you think. I mean, when we initially decided not to go with streaming because it would be, well, probably because of some of the reasons that we've hit on when we've actually done it. Like, we it didn't seem that big a deal. It's like, yeah, you hit a corner, but the amount of immersion you actually get from just being able to run and like not thinking in terms of I'm at the top of that cell or the bottom of that cell or I'm in the bottom corner of that cell. You're just in a world that expands out in every direction. It's a huge deal when you think about it. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it
But
much more. Yeah, it makes it easier for the player themselves to immerse themselves into this world.
that's it, basically the focus of the map stuff is to get all of Mulder done, and then focusing on getting more remote locations to discover. So there was the farm in the 2.0 releases that everyone was like, "Oh, have you found the farm?" But hoping for quite a few more locations like that and a lot further out. So there's going to be a lot more reward for exploration.
And one of the things that I was talking about, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, with having a map. It was last week. With having a map become so much bigger, and I think I remember reading the loot is going to be kind of spread out more because not things are so condensed. That in itself, having the map that big, intrinsically makes the game more difficult to survive, which I think a lot of people will enjoy.
Yeah, well, it's more about how where we're distributing the loot. It's like you're going to have the center of Mulder, which is going to be zombie central. Basically, it's like practically every part of Mulder itself will be swarmed with zombies. Where places on the outskirts, or even more so in the wilderness, there'll be less to no zombies. So it becomes the loot will be where the zombies are, not in I mean, I love Daisy and stuff like that, but it's like it's a literal there are zombies there if there are loot there kind of thing. But we're just talking about like the urban environment. That's where the zombies are. But that's where medicine's going to be. That's where antibiotics would be, or all the food shops. That's where all of the most of the weapons will be. But obviously. So it's trying to balance the gameplay so it's more people in the safe house being quite safe, but then having to make a trip into a dangerous area to get loot and then going back and not staying in the dangerous areas because that would be suicidal.
Exactly. It's bringing that zombie movie or TV show kind of feeling of needing to make runs into dangerous areas but not staying there.
exactly. And like once that's all tied into the metagame, I mean, it's like Paul Seed like be working on all the dialogue and stuff, and you know the amount of fun we want to be able to have just being at a farmhouse and only very occasionally having to go to where the zombies are, but still having gameplay
Right.
come from it.
I'm definitely super excited for that. Now, I just want to give a big shout out to MASH because one of the things I remember saying weeks ago, and I even said it last week, is that with a game that's being as ambitious as your game is, and saying your game is ambitious is putting it lightheartedly. One of the real big worries that I had way back when was having a world as big as yours. You don't want repeating like houses. You don't want the same kinds of layout or the same kinds of textures. Making something that's unique and fun to look at consistently is going to be very important. And I think last week MASH pulled out all the stops and really showing just how deep her tile set creation has become. I think she said she went from, what was it, 27 to how many? Do you remember?
Uh,
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
hundreds. I mean that's just a number at the end of the day. But it's the thing about Mash is also she's very protective over a map, and she doesn't want
Right,
much of it
of
spoiled.
course.
So she might be a little bit stingy over revealing stuff, but it's because she doesn't want to spoil people's exploration of it when it comes out. So like the extent of how these cool locations we've got, like today I was looking at a school and it had like
Oh
kids
wow.
painting on the wall saying welcome to Muldra High School and stuff like that. That I think she doesn't
Oh,
want to
I
spoil
can
too
understand.
much. But what the I mean, it's already looking amazing, and by the time I I managed to sort this shit out and get RC3 out there, we're going to have a pretty great big world to explore, and it's really that's one of the most exciting things. So and then obviously we've got some of the bigger map makers like Thustar and of course
Hmm.
Ringo D123 working on getting their map mods working with the new system. So then out of the box, people should also have a lot more of the world to actually explore, like two different worlds to explore, and then hopefully one day have them all plugged into one big world. And we're hoping it's just going to go mental from that point on, because it's like look how much was created out of those few tile sheets that we had, and then think how much could be created out of however many tile sheets we've got now. It's like
Yeah.
120
And
something.
one of the things about like alpha funded
Yeah.
games is it's where its strength comes from is it's going to be its community for the most part. And one of the more important things that alpha funded games do is its modding community. And Paul, you actually have a really strong connection to the modding community. Actually, before you were even part of the Understone, you were just part of the community, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, like back in the very early days, the first thing I ever did was make me YouTube
Hmm.
videos for Zomboid. Simply because when I first came across the game, I just thought, well, it doesn't matter how many times I play this game, it's
Right.
always going to
Hmm.
play out a different way. So therefore, it doesn't matter, because at the time, obviously, I was thinking about becoming a YouTuber, you see, and you were seeing all these Minecraft videos, which obviously probably is still the main thing out there that people watch gaming wise on YouTube, for the amount of views. But I just thought, if that's getting this many views and everybody can watch up to 10, 20, 30 different YouTubers playing this game, and it's always different for every person, surely Zomboid is at least going to evolve into that same thing. So that's why I first wanted to start making YouTube videos of it. And then obviously as I started getting more involved, and I signed up to the forums and started having to read through the forums, and then seeing a couple of little mods out there. And then especially once the version came out where we could mod the stories, I just thought, well, why not have a look through the files and see what I can do to
Hmm.
make it a bit different. And that's just kind of where it snowballed from it. That's where it started. And then I made me Geordie
Yep.
story mod, which was literally the story that we already had from Will, and I just completely changed all of the dialogue into my dialect,
Yep.
which is Geordie. But then from there, I made a few other little ones. Like one of the main bugs in the game, or one of the main problems people had with the game at that point, was that there was no way to drop an item or to
Oh,
bin
right,
an
right. I
item.
remember that.
So I made another little mod to use an empty can as a portable bin,
I
so you'd
remember
actually put
seeing that.
items in it and you get nothing back but the empty can. Yeah, so I mean, it was just literally a couple of mods like that, my story mod, and then obviously I got very interested in doing the map mods. I've seen loads of other people's buildings and like maps themselves which they'd made, and the very first one that got my attention was the Resident Evil
I remember
Mansion.
that as well. I never played that one though.
When I first seen that, it was just a building by itself. But then obviously me and a few other guys on the forums at the time managed to work out that we could double the size of that map at the time and still manage to load the whole thing up in game. So I doubled the size of the map, and at first all I did was just literally copy and paste the original map onto the new part. So it was just the same map, but just done twice, so it was twice as big. And then I started taking out building by building and replacing them with buildings people had made themselves on the forums, and that's where kind of my map mod first started out. And then from there, obviously, as people made more buildings and more full maps, it just grew
and
and
that's
grew
how
and
we
grew.
got kind of where we are now with your big old map mod. How influential has the modding community been to the game overall?
Well, a huge amount. I mean, you only have to look at the reloading, or the farming, or the camping. They're quite substantial words, but I mean, I guess because obviously we've talked about before about how myself and Binky come from a modding background ourselves. I mean, we worked in the games industry, and modding was our sort of creative outlet, because God knows you don't get any creative outlet in the games industry.
Right.
But basically, yeah. So that was our way, and then we basically we used to do like little daft indie games that never got released, and then we went indie, and modding became our, until we were way too busy to even justify it, because as soon as you start alpha funding the game, I think waiting for RC3 people to be pissed off if they found out we were making a Civ 5 mod at the same time.
I think they would be too. Just to clarify.
So yeah, that's kind of all by the. No, God no. So basically, obviously, we've got such commitments now that, like, I don't mean this is a guilt thing, but like, we don't really have much free time, but it's fucking it's worth.
Have you
sorry,
seen
I
my?
keep
Have you been on my
swearing.
channel?
Is yours friendly? I have. Yeah, it's hard work, but it's worth it, kind of thing. So we don't mind putting the hours in, because the reward of getting it out there is great and everything. But yeah, we don't really have much time to we don't really have much time to be modding stuff these days. But yeah, that's where we came from, and so it's like modding it's like, particularly to me and Binky, like forefront of our minds of everything, and like it's not how the word name Project Zomboid came about, but now it's about the project, and Project Zomboid is a community thing. It's the fact that everyone's involved in it, and we've always tried, if we're going to get people on board to help us with making the game, we want it to be people that are involved in the community, which is why it's like Paul and Romain both came from there. You know, I mean, because you could probably get someone with, I mean, because Romain, for example, and Paul didn't have any games experience before, but like, but you maybe go elsewhere and find someone who's worked coding stuff for 10, 15 years in games, but they could have their own things they want to do, and like they've been doing it for 10 years. They've got jaded by working in the games industry, which happens to us all, and they, you know, it's like you want people who are enthusiastic about what they're doing, and that's like, that's the important thing. And like, you know, then when you've got like a mod community like this, it's like you just have to look at it. I mean, even in the drought between releases, you're still seeing loads of stuff popping up on the mod forums, and it's really great. It's genuinely the most important thing to us out of all of it, I would say. And yeah, when we get on Steam you know what's coming then, don't you? It's Steam Workshop.
Yes,
We're going to be all over that.
Steam Workshop is going to be a huge asset, not only to the community but to you guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think the question a lot of people might be thinking right now, and just to shift gears a little bit, is RC3 going to be the Steam release, or is that something you can't quite tell me yet?
Well, I can't
Gotcha.
say too much about this, but I'll just say that there are things that seem to be afoot that mean that once RC3 goes live, we may be able to go on Steam sooner than we initially thought we might be able to.
Dangling
I
a
can't
carrot
really
and the string
say any
from
more
me,
of that, but
that's all I hear.
I'm sorry, but yeah. But basically,
Of course.
we're pretty optimistic about
It'll be on Steam one
getting
day,
on
I'm sure.
Steam. Yeah. But it's the long night. We know it's horrible, and we know
It's
we
necessary.
feel
It's one of those things that you
yeah.
can't, in my opinion, you just can't really control as much as you'd like. Even knowing as little about programming as I do, I remember one of the big rule of thumb when I was going to school for programming was it could take you 45 minutes to write a very simple program. It will then take you 3 hours to debug the program itself. And I can only imagine that that's multiplied 20-fold for you guys.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. But it's also it's it's like little bubbles of wallpaper. Like basically, it all starts from the streaming. To be quite honest, we could have said we're not going to have streaming in. We could have stuck to our guns for that. But if it was ever going to happen, it had to happen sooner rather than later. And if we'd have waited until 6 months or a year down the line, it would never have happened because the amount of time, the amount of fallout that it's caused, and we could have handled it better. If we'd have had the release system that we're using beyond RC3, we could have mitigated the amount of delay caused. But if it had to happen, it had to happen sooner. Because I mean, God forbid multiplayer went in or then we had to sit back and say, right, we're going to put streaming in. It would just collapse under its own weight. So it's like it sucks, and it might continue to suck for a bit. But once it's out the way, we are hard at work, and we will get there. And it's bloody awful for us as well. So everyone out there, it's awful for us. It's not just awful for you. We want it out there as much as you do. We'll be as quick as possible. So, yeah, but there's a few more headaches to go. It's what we said about spending a couple of weeks trying to get all those things that got pushed by the wayside that kind of meant that the game wasn't really playable. And a prime example, like lights haven't worked since we went over to the new map because of the new way the tool chain worked, and the new way we were handling things for the streaming. Yep, the streaming again.
It all goes back to the
streaming. But yeah. So basically, this week I've been mainly working on getting all the lights stuff back working and getting all the spawning stuff fixed. There's still some problems with that. So yeah, it's things that you can't really show a video on, and also you can't really show a video on anything else. While it's like what we want to do with the metagame is have just it uninterrupted from sat around in your safe house to going on a routing mission and then back again. But until all of the elements that would make that video look crap are fixed, it's kind of like after all the build up. I mean, everyone was so kind of blown away by the metagame concept, and while a completely accurate description of what could go on in the metagame, it was obviously in text form and didn't include lines where we described bugs that made it look absolutely awful. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, the reason it was text is because we couldn't pull it off in video at that point. We're getting close to that point, but
that's
fine. Sorry, I'm right. But
it makes sense.
That's where we are. And we've asked for people's patience so many times, but we're just going to have to ask for it for a little bit more while we get there. But the future is bright.
Getting
It's just slightly out of reach.
Every day brings you one
We're
step
getting
closer, I
closer
can
though.
imagine,
We are
so.
getting. And as soon as people start seeing videos of the metagame and stuff, that is an indication that we're pretty much there.
That'll be exciting.
So, yeah,
One of the I
yeah.
want to say it was 2 weeks ago. I think week 10 of your Mondoid updates. You kind of released the Sandbox option, and everybody was actually really well received in my opinion. I was excited for it, and this kind of goes back to me and Paul. Kind of our roots are in the Let's Play genre. And Paul, you said something about Minecraft being hundreds of people could watch this, thousands, millions could watch Minecraft over and over, and it's different every single time. And it almost seems like the Sandbox thing is almost geared towards Let's Players. Has Let's Playing or Let's Players really helped the game in general, on any standpoint?
Well, personally, I think Let's Playing has helped
I agree with you, by
every
the way,
game in
totally.
general. A lot. I mean, you don't see hardly anywhere. Well, I don't even see anybody buying them, especially people buying or going out to buy PC magazines. For reviews on games like you used to when you were younger. You would never know how good a game was unless you spoke to your friends or unless you bought a magazine and read a review about the game. Obviously, now we've got the internet, and you've had it for quite a long time. You've got all the online sites which do reviews and everything. But for a lot of people, reviews just don't cut the mustard. They want to see what the game looks like and how it feels to play. And only a Let's Player actually playing that, for me, can portray that enough to let you know what the game is actually
we live
like
in
when
a
you're
world
playing
now
it.
where if we have a question about any particular form of entertainment, we can just jump online, type it in, and we can see it right there instantaneously. I can only imagine that Let's Playing has
Yeah.
only helped Project Zomboid in itself. And the Sandbox option, was that made with Let's Playing geared in mind, or was this something that was always planned to be implemented in the game at some point? Just all those zombie options.
Like a lot of the game is geared towards Let's Plays because effectively it's the genre we live in. It's sandbox, isn't it? It's creating your own story, and that's what's exciting about Let's Plays. And it's the same with
Oh,
I know
God,
you've
thank you
been
for
playing
that.
it recently, Crusader
Destroying
Kings.
my life 1 hour at a time.
Uh, but yeah, it's anything which can create a story is perfectly suited to Let's Players, and like when we started Zomboid, that was one of the most important aspects, along with the modern, was that we wanted that kind of thing where you could sit there and watch multiple YouTube videos of different people's playthroughs, and like, I mean, it's great that you think that already it's like that, but because we're our own worst critics, we feel it hasn't gone far enough, which is where a lot of the metagame stuff comes from. It's trying to create an actual zombie movie experience where you've got the betrayals and the mistrust and all these elements, and like, I mean, it's just something that me and because Paul comes around here, or I go around Paul's quite a lot, and we always end up just rabbiting on about the metagame for about 4 hours. It's like, yeah, that's like the dream. It's the every time we play it, we want people to watch a YouTube video of a Let's Play series with the metagame and be fooled into thinking that it's the story mode, and then to watch someone else's and then go, hang on a minute, what part of the story is this?
It's exciting.
That'd be the dream, wouldn't it?
I know I've watched Paul's before. I've watched my tutors. I've watched plenty of people playing Zomboid, and that was one of the things that turned me onto the game initially. It was like these people were playing this game, and when I jumped on, I could have my own personal survival story, and with the metagame being implemented, and Paul and Will working really hard on creating all these interactions that these NPCs can have and what they say, will only make it a much richer experience for a lot of people, which I'm very, very excited for.
Yeah, and like the sandbox options. At the end of the day, we've had that in for months, months and months. But like, to be honest, we're a little bit frightened about I mean, because the big thing in there is the running zombies, and because we're so principled on our belief on what real zombies are that we just didn't. It almost felt like selling out a bit, even though we have the real zombies tick box and everything. But at the end of the day, we want people to have the choice. That's what the modern's about. It's giving people choice, and as long as we can stamp our flag on what zombies should be in the story and in the survival mode, then what's the harm in giving people as much choice as they want for the sandbox? Because isn't that
I agree.
what the sandbox is?
And I think, as much as some people may not like the running zombies, that's why it's an option. That's why it's something that's implemented in the game automatically. You choose that, and I like that a lot. As we kind of wrap up kind of this Mondoid segment, I only have like one or two more questions. One, again, sticking with that Let's Play theme, the Let's Playing community, or just the YouTube community in general, definitely boosted the Zomboid popularity. I'm sure you've answered this question in the past, but I'm curious, how quickly did Zomboid end up growing, like, all in a short period of time, and were you prepared for how popular it ended up getting?
Well, yeah, we peaked with like popularity, and like right near the start we suddenly got a lot of attention, comparatively. I mean, you say a lot of attention in the same room as Minecraft, and it's not a lot of attention, but like we expected to spend 2 or 3 years having to kind of grow our like player base and but it was sudden, instant. A lot of people interested in the game, and that blew us away.
You guys
and
were kind of struggling to keep the game going, weren't you?
Yeah, well, obviously we had a set of unforeseen circumstances which kind of slowed us down or kicked us in the balls on occasion. But yeah, it was wonderful, and you can't quite describe it. It's surreal's probably the only word to describe it, because suddenly starting to see YouTube playthroughs appearing, and it's like these people are playing our game. It's never happened before, and it's quite remarkable. But obviously the downside is then the pressure's on immediately, instead of being to build up anonymously for a year or two before anyone really notices what's going on, and then having everything there laid out in front of them. It was like we got a Reddit post which basically just thrust us into attention quite early on, and it's sort of it feels sometimes like we missed the grace period and we went straight on to having the because obviously we had issues arise, and then and obviously everyone was eager for the next release, and it was like, well, I wouldn't change it for a split second, but it was a lot of pressure, and that we had to sort of adjust to and
absolutely.
learn how to deal with, if that makes sense.
What were you going to say?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, no, yeah. Oh no, I've turned this into an edit, haven't I?
Overall, Zomboid has definitely shaped up, and in turn, Zomboid has given me what I have, which I am extremely thankful for. Now, kind of wrapping up things here, is there anything either one of you wanted to say or get across or touch upon before I wrap things up? Because I feel like I've asked all the questions that I have in my mind, but I'm curious if you have something that you'd like to say.
Paul?
Straight to me. Cheers, Chris.
Spotlight's on you, Paul.
I mean, to be honest, I think everything that's been said over the past few months in the blog posts and everything is probably everything that we more or less have to say. Again, just stressing the fact that once this next version does hit, this really is the last big weight anybody should really be expecting. Once this next version is out, that is at least going to be the backbone for the Steam version, and also get us to a point where we'll hopefully be able to have at least weekly builds coming out.
Yeah, that's definitely it. And I guess to a point with the Mondoids, and we'll probably keep doing the Mondoids forever, because we really like the way that they might brighten up someone's Monday a little bit, because you know what Mondays are like. But yeah, obviously, like obviously it's trying to find a balance, because I guess we might have been a little bit obsessed with trying to come up with results for the Mondoid, and like, and sometimes we might have to just say we're just getting on with it. That's
exactly.
that's what's happening. We're getting on with
everything.
it. Yeah. Yeah, and like, and if it's a Mundoid where we don't reveal anything, it's probably a Mundoid because we're finally getting some really cool stuff battered into submission.
Excellent. Well, I have to say, I'm so happy that the Mondoid name stuck. No, that's
sorry,
no
we
stealing
kinda
it.
stole
I
that,
was
didn't
really
we?
happy that the name ended up sticking because I think it fits well. It makes me think Monday is not something to dread anymore, but something to look forward to, and it gives me a free piece of content to put on my channel. So that's always fun. So as we wrap up, I want to thank you guys for swinging by, and just so everybody knows, this was their idea. So you can thank Chris and Paul and all the developers at the Indie Stone for coming up with this Monday. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys. Paul, if people want to go watch your stuff or get in contact with you, what is the easiest way, and where can they find you?
Either on the Project Zomboid forums or on YouTube.
And do you have a Twitter as well?
RingoD123.
Excellent. So I'll put all those
I
links
do.
in the bottom
Again,
below. And how about
RingoD123 on
Chris?
Twitter.
Do you have a Twitter? I know you're very active on the forums. If people don't know that, then they are not paying attention. But do you have anything that, like a Twitter, you'd like people to follow, or anything like that? Lemmy 101. Simple enough.
Lemmy 101.
Yeah.
Do you want me to hear me rant
The government,
about the government? Or
Crusader Kings.
I might mention Zomboid occasionally.
Which my dynasty's
Crusader
falling
Kings,
apart because
and
of you.
I'm still trying to find out whether I'm going to be angry on the 5th when SimCity comes out that they've put a load of microtransactions into it.
I feel like the new SimCity, I mean, getting off topic, seems great. A lot of great ideas, but there are a lot of other ideas that are not so great that I am not necessarily looking forward to as well.
Yeah, I played the beta and I liked it, but then
I know a lot of the stuff that you buy with the collector's edition doesn't come with the normal edition, so that bothers me slightly. But either way, that's a topic for another day. Thank you guys for swinging by. If you guys have not been to my channel before and you're seeing this on the blog post, make sure you swing on by at Mathis Games. It's youtube.com/Mathis Games, where I have Zomboid up almost every day, as well as video game reviews, previews, and now interviews. And thank you guys for swinging by. Again, I appreciate being able to, given the opportunity to steal about 45 minutes of your life to talk to you about what's so near and dear to your heart. And hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, fuck's sake.
You did better
I got through the majority of it without any major slip-ups. You are going to.
And I appreciate it. You
are
guys,
going to edit this out.
have given me everything I have, whether indirectly or directly. So I appreciate it. Again, thank you guys for swinging by on Mondoid. The new name of Mondoid. Now I can't talk. Thanks, Chris. The new name of Mondays is now Mondoid. And if you have any questions, feel free to Twitter or tweet at me. I'm at Mathis Starcraft. And I'll see you guys either later on today, tomorrow, or if you're just here for Mondoid, I'll see you next week. Thanks again, guys.